Hello YouTube, Thomas here, and today's an exciting day because this is my first podcast. Um, I'm not entirely sure what to name the podcast. I will go back and rename everything, but we're gonna have. I'm gonna put some timestamps in the comments because this is quite long. So for anyone wanting to find out specific points, I will try and label them best as I can and put those timestamps in the comments for everyone. So I hope that you're going to enjoy this podcast, and anyone who wants to get involved in speaking to me as either a student in a university doing a degree, or if you've recently completed a degree and would like to kind of reflect on that in a podcast with me, this is what this podcast is about, mainly for students. I might expand it further later on, but right now we're starting out kind of reviewing degrees and reflecting on degrees, so that basically students who are looking for information can go and find it on the internet without even having to talk to anyone, because I can do the talking for you. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy this first episode. Ryan, call you Ryan.
Yeah, it's everything started. Yeah,
Yep,
that's the camera.
all good. Everything's
Yeah,
rolling now. So
record.
technically, you're my first episode. You get the honor of the first episode of the podcast, which I do not even know the name of yet. But if you'd like, you can briefly introduce yourself.
Okay. My name's Ryan McKellion, and I recently just finished my first year of fine art at Manchester School of Art, and hopefully I'll be proceeding into second year very soon in September.
I'm just
So
wondering what guys did you get because of obviously the whole COVID-19 situation. Did you guys get cut early as well? Because my brother, he's at university now as well. His course got cut early.
it
Um,
it was pretty. So it was around. Was it March? It was around March,
mm,
February time. And I initially was actually going to come home for just a little break for a week, and then I was going to come back for around 2 weeks before we finished for the Easter break,
yeah.
and I ended up having to stay home, and then eventually about a week after that, so this was around the beginning of April,
Mm,
um, face-to-face teaching stopped and the uni actually closed. Initially, the studios have remained open for a while.
yeah.
Don't see why, because we would have been with everybody in the studios, as you know, and eventually that stopped as well, and then it just became online teaching kind of evidence. So, but it was pretty, because obviously I don't live in England. I had to commute back
Yeah.
to Ireland as well, which was pretty stressful. And then I had to move out. The accommodations eventually shut down as well. It just became face-to-face teaching on FaceTime then
Mm.
ever since. So
How's the FaceTime teaching going?
uh,
Nah.
not
It's
it's it's not £9,000 worth of teaching. I can say that.
yeah.
It's fine.
But
It
just
could be better.
fine, move on.
It, it but the play with, well, the whole situation's horrible, but
Yeah.
the last unit that I do in the school is a collaborative unit,
Oh no.
and it's so
Oh
it
no.
was we were trying, it was just horrible. And,
Those,
uh,
my collaborative unit in my university had such a bad reputation for the organization. So I can't imagine like your collaborative unit in this situation as well. Like,
it it was something else. It was, well, we haven't got our grades yet. We'll find out if we did well or
mm.
not.
But speaking of
Yeah.
units, then I kind of said to you in an email about the structure that we're planning on doing this for the podcast would be to speak about, generally speaking, the structure of the course. Then also we'd like to know about the environment, and also then finally kind of the staff, tutors, and we can also talk about your own practice and your work. So in terms of
Perfect.
the structure of course. What's kind of your take, or how you kind of reflected on that? For the first
Yeah,
year,
so roughly,
bear in mind, I guess to give a little bit of context, you've just finished your first year. I remember you said it in the introduction, but this would just be in the context of first year. So for anyone listening.
yeah, so you typically begin first year with an exhibition of your summer projects, which is, pretty chill.
Mm.
And there's usually free wine and things, which is pretty cool.
So does the
And
university
then,
set you a summer project to do?
so of course, when you've got your offer and things like that,
Mm.
um, they send you an email basically with the summer project and a little bit of reading that you should kind of do before going into the course.
Yeah.
But it's pretty chill. I can't remember. I don't know if it was themed. Everybody's is pretty different, so I don't think it was themed. But it's really chill. I was initially nervous about it, but just everybody just walks around and discusses, the war, and the chitters walk around, and you're drinking free wine, so it's pretty nice.
I feel like usually when you join like a new institution or class or school, I remember there was a couple like really awkward. We did a similar kind of thing in my university, but I can't remember what they did to try and like break the ice, but some of it was like so awkward and like forced. But by the sounds of what you're saying is it just seemed pretty relaxed, and maybe the university didn't try and force any like collaborative tasks on you.
Well, there is collaborative tasks that do come up then eventually. So after an exhibition, you have you get put into groups, and there was for my year it was drawing circuits with the tutors.
Yeah.
But they're pretty chill. You're not really collaboratively doing anything. It's more to kind of to get to know the tutors and the people that you're working with. But it's not too cringy or anything like that. It's pretty chill. It's actually, you get to do quite nice things. So it's pretty much situated around drawing. So, and then from that they decide what you possibly be best suited to. So that could be either, painting, drawing, printmaking, or sculpture in time-based media. And that kind of determines what tutor then.
Okay, so depending on what you're interested in, you then get a specialized kind of tutor for that particular craft.
Yeah. But as you do that, kind of for your, the studio practice for the rest of the year, but they do make it very clear that this is fluid and that it doesn't, your practice is allowed to change, and that it's not, although you do have to kind of pick a category if you're doing, painting, drawing, printmaking, or sculpture and time-based media, but that's just more to get, the correct tutor for what your needs, basically.
So rather than it just being too open, because even though, for example, I did a painting BA, but even like as within my kind of cohort, we had people going into sculpture, installation, other things. Even though the degree itself was a painting BA, they were very kind of forward with us about, if you do want to kind of explore other things, then they're happy for you to do so. And obviously I think under fine art, that's generally speaking, fine art obviously is much more open than even a painting BA. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So it was pretty, that was the kind of the beginning of the year. It was pretty chill, and we went on there was a field trip to the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, which was pretty nice. It was raining all day, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah. Is that kind of contemporary art sculpture then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all basically outside, and that's actually pretty nice though. So, but that's the kind of the field trip you kind of have. If we want now, I can kind of briefly talk like a typical week.
Yeah, that would be great. Kind of like maybe what kind of lectures would they expect? Are there any seminars? How do tutorials work with your tutor? Generally speaking, I think that's the main kind of bulk of maybe for the structured timetable, that's what tends to exist in a fine art course, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you want, I'll talk about the a typical week at its bare minimum,
Yeah.
and then the additional things that you can kind of sign up for. But so for first year in May, it was a Monday. You would typically have a brief for the week ahead with the unit leader,
Yeah.
discussing kind of what coming up the week or whatever. But this eventually kind of stopped. It more for as you were in your first year coming in, and the different workshops that you might have had to kind of the icebreakers. It was more kind of a brief on that, not really anything else. So eventually those briefs had stopped.
Yeah.
And then on Monday we also had CP, which was contextualizing practice,
Yeah.
which runs from start of the year basically to the end of the year, and that alternates each week between lecture and seminar. And that's typically in the morning, and then you're kind of expected to be generating work in the studio for the rest of the day, which is school is open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. midnight, as far as I remember.
Good hours.
So it's yeah, the accommodations all around the art school as well. So so it's pretty nice.
So if you're living on campus, you can just live inside of your art, basically.
Basically.
Yeah.
So a Tuesday was typically just a studio day. You're not monitored on how much time you spend in the studio. There's no registration or track of attendance, but when it comes up to assessment, the tutor can pretty much tell by the quality and the quantity of your work.
Yeah.
If you're not really participating in the studio environment, and also the tutors come in quite frequently and ask the other students where you are.
Oh,
so
wow.
You do free a text message, or if it's really bad, the tutor will call your phone.
So there really is kind of an expectation for you to be working in the studios and have a presence in the studios. So there's that kind of studio culture really is encouraged.
Yeah, the studio culture is a big part of school. A lot of people at the beginning of the year worked at home or in their student accommodation, but they really urged you to come into the studio and talk with the rest of the students. And I think that's a big part of one of the reasons kind of great art school. It's to bounce your ideas off everyone.
Well, yeah, the creative space and that energy and everyone kind of working around you. I think what's interesting is your first year seems like you had a much better experience than, apart from COVID, but you seem to have a better experience than what I had, because at the beginning I was really keen. I was turning up at the studios and it was kind of like a ghost town. No one was showing up, but there wasn't really an enforcement of you have to come in and work either, because I feel like maybe the school was like, okay, if people are comfortable working at home, then we should allow them to do that. But it really did kind of, particularly in first year, it kind of just killed the vibe of the studios. And when I was traveling kind of an hour and a half in for a dead studio, I was like, why am I traveling an hour and a half, spending 3 hours a day kind of coming in? So I just literally set up a workspace at home, and I was like a ghost for the second half of first year. But then second and third year improved dramatically for me. But I admire that your university is telling people, no, you come to the studios and you bloody interact with each other, because that's the kind of
it may have been just my tutor. My tutor was loved my tutor. She was so nice, but she was all about the studio culture and your practice, and she was very into the art. Of course she was a tutor, but she loved the whole talking with your peers and things like that. So
it's
that
important.
Was,
you
really
learn so much from doing that. So
yeah, 100%. You look what you said as well on the channel, that you don't really get taught or it's more about the studio environment.
Traditional. There's not kind of
Yeah,
you don't get taught how to sculpt in, I don't know, traditional materials or paint with whether it be acrylics or oils. There's no kind of technical classes when it comes to
there's no formal teaching. So your your peer artists are the one to learn from, and if you see something that they're doing, just ask, and just they're typically quite happy to help if it's a technique.
Most of them don't stab you with a paintbrush.
most of them, yeah. But I think what really helped in our studio kind of environment was we were mixed with second and third year as well. So they were just kind of around the corner. We were in our groups, but they would have been in the general kind of room. So, and they were always in the studio. As you said yourself as well, it picks up in second and third year. So they were always there, and they would walk around, and we would always kind of communicate and get ideas, which was pretty.
You feel like a baby when you come into like year one, and there's all like these third years around. You're like, whoa, like those are big people.
Big work, and it was. I kind of enjoyed that, getting that experience with, the older kind of, more mature artists in a way, with their ideas and thought processes and things. Pretty nice. So, I think we're on Wednesday now of the week. So a typical Wednesday, almost every Wednesday for the entire year they had visiting artist talks.
Every Wednesday?
Basically the entirety of the year, but every Wednesday.
There's a new artist.
Every Wednesday they kind
that's good.
Yeah, so they're pretty much a new artist each week, and these artists have all varied practices, so it kind of accommodates everyone's needs. But they kind of the artists don't come in as often coming up to assessment because they expect you to be in the studio a bit more.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So they don't kind of stretch a little bit. So that's kind of what happened on Wednesday, and then of course the studio as well. And then Thursday and Friday were just studio days as well. But so that's kind of the week at its bare minimum with all the kind of requirements and stuff. But you would also have your one-to-one tutorials with your personal tutor roughly every 2 weeks, and sometimes you would have a group credit as well. But that depends on the tutor and if set up a group credit or not. But
more of like a like a seminar setup, right? So you'd have an assigned group and then an assigned tutor for maybe about 6 or 7 students, something like that, or.
So my tutor had 2 groups. We were all in the one space, but just because it was quite a big group, it was divided into 2 seminar groups, which had about 6 or 7 students, and they were pretty chill. I liked group crits. It was just an opportunity to get to really talk about everybody's work and what you liked about the work.
Do you find that it's difficult to have people talking in these group seminars? I found there tended to be a mix where I was someone who was quite happy to kind of talk and ask questions and discuss sometimes difficult topics and stuff like that. But I feel like sometimes the tutors are like trying to force blood out of a stone with some people. Whether it be, I don't know, sometimes it comes to confidence and maybe people think that what they're going to say is not really valuable. But I don't know if it's, with other people it might be a bit of an attitude thing, or I found that some sessions when it came to group, even lectures, like it was just kind of like dead silent sometimes, and you're like, why isn't anyone like saying anything or talking or
Yeah, really, that is, it does, especially in the arts. Um, some people can be quite reserved,
yeah,
you know, uh, which is perfectly fine. And then the more extroverted kind of more social people who may more engage in the kind of studio environment. And I'm a little bit of an extrovert, so I don't think I came on this call if I wasn't. But I was similar to you. I enjoyed, talking about my
yeah,
work, or, asking question about other people's work if I was like, interested in a technique or something along those lines. But talking about if some people didn't want to speak, my tutor had silent crits, where the person didn't speak and we got to speak
how the
about the
hell
work.
does that work? Like,
Yeah,
like,
we basically sit there, we talk about their work, and I think that, engages the conversation a little bit, better. Um, so they feel a bit more comfortable when it
yeah,
comes to actually talking about their work. Um, so that did happen a few times, but eventually, as the group crits went on, everybody was just quite happy to talk about their work quite openly.
yeah.
So it
I think as
became,
well. Once everyone's kind of familiar with each other's faces and you kind of are aware of who the very chill people are, slash maybe a bit more timid. Like you're kind of aware of everyone's
yeah,
personalities and stuff. It's kind of easier to maybe kind of direct these kinds of sessions.
yeah. Yeah, so it eventually, as the year went on, it became, they were quite second nature. And it was quite chill. And we would sometimes, we would walk around anyway in the studios and talk about everyone's work pretty much every day,
Yeah,
is in general conversation. So when the group crit came up, it was just basically another day, but with the tutor.
yeah. So
Um,
just
so,
kind of a directed conversation slash extra recommendations from someone who maybe knows a bit more than everyone else.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
so
pretty
regarding
much.
the actual studio spaces themselves, how would you describe like the studio space? I understand this is in the context of first year. So generally speaking, how big is your space? Are you kind of, is it like a maze? Is it a large open space? Do you feel like it's a bit too cramped, or do you like this kind of amount of space that you have? Let's talk about like the actual physical aspects of the studio
Yeah,
space.
studio, yeah. So I thought for first year we got, pretty decent sized studio space. There's photograph of me in the studio. Um, I'll send that photo across to you if you want. It
That'd be
doesn't get
great.
my full space in, but
Yeah, that
it
would be
gets a
great.
general kind of
Anything
idea.
is good.
Yeah, so the fine art students are typically in the Grosvenor building, which is the original art school. Um, so it has a lot of history and things like that.
Mm.
But so as you progress, so first year, you have generally a smaller space, and then as you go up in the years, you get the bigger space with the better lighting and the more kind of room, things like that. But as I was saying earlier as well, you're in studio spaces with second years and third years as well.
Yeah,
So you're similar to the environment and the people and things like that. So as you progress, it is pretty nice. But eh, some some people in my tutor group had very large spaces, and some people had smaller
yeah.
spaces.
It seems to be the same across a lot of universities. Like sometimes you just get lucky and sometimes you don't. But I would argue that for anyone going in, if you cause like a ruckus, if you just make a big deal about if you don't like your space, usually when you like voice your opinion to, I don't know, the course leaders or the tutors, they tend to try and swap you or move you with someone, um,
Yeah,
and it's best to do this at the beginning of the year as much as you can, because then it's easier to kind of swap everything around. But yeah,
and if you want your space a little bit bigger, as the year goes on, slowly inch into someone else's space, which has happened a few times with
It's
myself.
it's like the Roman Empire expanding. Like you just gotta claim your land.
But in the studio as well, they had a rule, and it's if you don't use it, you lose it. And it was posters all around the school. If you don't use it, someone else is going to take it. And there was someone beside me who didn't really, so I just expanded, a little bit.
I think
But
that's a fair rule, to be honest.
yeah.
I wonder
So
if someone hid themselves while COVID-19 happened, and then now they're just expanding throughout the whole of your studio, and then you're gonna come back, and there's just
yeah,
gonna be like one
yeah,
student like covered in paint.
yeah, yeah. And all our things, well, my things in particular, are actually still in the studio, because the school was down. But
Oh yeah,
so I hope not. I hope that's
yeah.
the case. But I'm seriously, all my paintings and my glass palette and things like that are still
Glass
sitting
palette.
there.
That is what I like to hear. Glass palette. You're a good student.
That palette's just, it's game changer. Just get one.
Yeah.
My tutor loved them as well, and actually got the glass department to cut us all big glass palettes, which was pretty great. So and they were
that
like
is really
£7. They were pretty cheap and pretty heavy duty.
Work from
Were
glass.
So they were pretty big. They were like 51 centimeters or something like that. They were
Yeah, it doesn't sound bad
pretty
at
good
all.
size. So and I loved a big palette, but completely off topic. But the glass palette,
Glass
pretty
palette.
good.
Glass palette. You've got to preach glass palette. But one thing I've seen a lot of artists do is spray paint one side with kind of like a warm grey. Um,
That's
I'm
funny.
gonna consider doing that when I get back to the UK. Because right now mine's just a plain glass, and I put like white paper underneath it, just so it's not like. But yeah.
So what I did for mine was I got some corrugated plastic, I think it was,
Mm.
put it on and painted it grey, and then also had a white piece of paper underneath.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty good gauge from when the canvas is white, but also when there's tone already on the canvas, just to kind of know what the tones and colours are actually doing.
That's a
each
smarter
other.
palette than mine. See, I'm gonna learn from speaking to first year students now. You're gonna see a new YouTube video from me. I had a genius idea, and I'm gonna put half white, half grey, and there's gonna be tiny little font. Credit to credit to Ryan.
Yeah. So that's a little tip for your glass palette. Yeah.
So
So
I guess finally
there-
let's briefly touch on the tutors, the staff. Who have you come across so far? Ups and downs, lefts and rights. What's your take on the staff so far?
So I wrote notes basically on everything, but
Yeah.
not a lot on the staff because
Mm.
I like them a lot.
Yeah.
I had no issues with the staff. If we're talking about the tutors in the fine art course, they're all so nice.
Yeah.
They're all pretty helpful. If say there is a tutor that you want a tutorial with, you can just pretty much email them and they'll try and book you in a slot if it's not your personal tutor, so you can have tutorials with other tutors
So
if they have the time, of
there's
course.
flexibility
Um,
there.
Yeah, so it's quite nice.
And I'm assuming
You
they
see
have.
tutors.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming they have more of a positive attitude towards you if you're obviously a face that's known in the studio. That's what I seem to kind of get from my university, anyways. That the tutors recognize obviously the students who are putting in effort and trying to, I guess,
Mhm.
create that positive space in the studio. So they're more willing to put aside some of their time or
Yeah.
put a few strings for you to organize those extra meetings, right?
Yeah, so the tutor, which is actually pretty great, the tutor's offices um, are in the fine art building, so they're always there if you need them. You can go down and knock in the office, and they have open office hours as well, so if you need to talk to them about anything at all. If you need an extension on a particular assignment, you can work that out as well. So it's pretty good.
That is
Yeah. So I wrote down as well the technicians. The technicians, right? They are right, but never get on the wrong side of a technician, because they don't need to help you at all. They just don't. It's not in their job. They have plenty of other things to be doing. So, for your degree show, I would just be on the good side of the technicians.
Otherwise, you're not gonna get a drill. You're not gonna get that big ruler you want. You're not gonna get those screws, because that if the technician hates you, your life is hell. Like.
Yeah, just don't get any. They don't need to, and they don't care, because they have an entire art school to be dealing with, not just you. So stay on the good side of the technicians. It's pretty.
Stay humble, stay friendly, stay respectful, and realize people have a lot on their plate, basically.
Yeah. So that's pretty much on the staff. They're extremely helpful, and there's a lot of fine art staff in particular. So a few of the people I would have seen who weren't, general tutors would have been. So we have a fine art oil paint technician, or a paint technician, and then which is pretty good. Then there's the stretcher making technicians and things like that, which are so helpful. You just email them, and then they will just show you how to make a stretcher, and they will help you and show you the tools and things like that, which is pretty good.
My wood workshop was like one of my favorite places to be when I was in there was a guy called Pete. He ran the wood workshop. I learned so much from him, but he used to have like just chill ambient music on all the time, and he used to say like, I have the chill music on so people relax and concentrate when they're doing their stuff, so that they don't like saw off their fingers and stuff when they're using like the bandsaw or like the big drills and stuff like this. But I think they're really helpful skills to kind of learn, especially if obviously you're going to start, you plan to practice as an artist. To buy your own wood and make your own stretchers and stuff is obviously so much more cost effective.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You kind of, that's an invaluable skill, how to stretch your own canvas properly, and making sure that it's tight enough, and, it's sized, and it's primed, and, it's how you like your canvas to be.
I recall a story of, there was a student from my university who was exhibiting somewhere with like a long kind of stretcher. It was a landscape, and someone was interested in buying it for like almost £1,000, around this kind of price. So not bad money at all. But because the stretcher was warped because they didn't build it properly and they didn't stretch or anything properly, the buyer said like, look, I'm gonna have to spend 200-300 quid to have this unstretched, have something built for it and then re-stretched. So I'm gonna knock 300 quid off of it, and I'll still buy it from you, but like £300 cheaper. So ended up selling it for like 700 instead of the full price. So I think to do these things properly, as you're saying, is important, and it's a key skill to have.
I don't know what other art schools are like, but they showed us how to make a pretty sturdy stretcher.
Yeah.
Compared to the school we have in Northern Ireland, and I've seen a few people's stretchers and things
made from twigs.
And some of them, they're basically, it was just 4 bits of wood put together, and that was pretty much it. But,
with no bars going across, or like
no support beams, no nothing. I suppose you only need the support beam if it's huge, but even for the smaller ones, they don't really have anything like that. But in Manchester School of Art, they basically there is a particular workshop for stretcher making in the original art school, so where the fine art studios are. So you just go down the stairs, and you're at the stretcher making place, and you can go into another building to cut it electronically, the miter joints if you want. But there is this in the old art building, there's this kind of a fit machine, and it comes down and puts 45
Oh
degree
yeah, yeah,
angles
yeah.
forward.
You like do you stamp it with your foot?
Yeah,
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 I can't remember what this was. I know what you're talking, and you can adjust it slightly as well. And
yeah.
yeah, I can't remember what this was called. There was a specific name for it we had in our wood workshop, but it's gone from the top of my head. So I stalked your Instagram a bit. You seem like more of a painter. Are you a painter?
Yeah, de-
Yes.
yeah, 100%. That was one thing I was actually worried about initially going into the art school. I thought, you had sculpture and you had to do, you know, everything, because in A level you pretty much have to do everything, but it's
Yeah,
so
no, no, it's not
it's
the
so
same.
different in arts.
Yeah.
It's so individual. Um, no, so yeah, a painter. I initially started, so I didn't do a foundation.
Mm.
Um, so I didn't, which I know is a bit controversial. But I've actually wrote a couple of notes on that and what the art school actually does for students who don't do the foundation. And we
Yeah.
can talk about that a little bit after. So were you going to say something there?
I was just gonna say I might pull up your Instagram quickly while we're talking kind of about you and your painting, just so we can you can tell us about maybe a couple of your paintings. Like, what's your kind of favorite stuff?
Okay.
That's up on your Instagram right now.
Yeah. Let me get it up as well.
Because
Yeah.
I was having a look at
So
some of your kind of traditional fabric based. I'm assuming it's in
yeah,
oils, is it? Um,
yeah, that's
and it
so
even looks
so.
like, I don't know, is there an aspect of photography there? Because I'm looking at one here and it looks like one section is more focused than the rest, or is that just me imagining
Which,
it?
which piece? Uh, I don't know which one.
The
Um,
one. Let me show you this one.
Hold on, check. That one? No, that's a painting.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm
So
saying, is there as in what I'm saying is, like the top,
it's a
as
little
you
blurred.
come, it looks a bit more focused towards like the upper right center, if I'm describing that correctly.
So for that piece in particular,
Yeah.
I didn't in that photograph. It wasn't finished, so
Okay. Oh,
I kind of get a general.
am I being
I
stupid? Mm.
photoshopped the rest of it,
Ah.
so to get a general idea of composition, just to see what was kind of, going on in that particular piece. But so at the beginning of my Instagram, it was pretty much my A level work, and it was portraiture.
Mm.
But uh, I then kind of, I wanted to break free of A level and completely start something
The
new.
confines of
So
the A level syllabus.
yeah, I hated it. It was
Too structured.
yeah.
It looks like in your most recent four posts, you're going slightly more abstracted. If I.
Yeah, so the reason for that, and that
Mm.
was when the collaborative unit had kind of begun. But the reason that kind of changed was, well, one, there was a theme, and the theme was IKEA,
IKEA.
which was yeah, IKEA.
What?
It was IKEA.
The theme was
You know,
IKEA.
yeah,
Only in art school.
I know. Each individual was given a product from IKEA.
Yeah.
And the one we got was, it was like a rug basically. And I know the things I've done don't look like rugs, but I'll kind of explain
Well,
what that
they could
was.
be like some kind of fabric design. I could see that.
So the reason it's kind of, different from the rest of my kind of more recent work, the kind of the fabric paintings was
Yeah.
so as I had to move back home because of COVID,
Yeah.
um, all my equipment was locked in the art school and I had no equipment back home, and that's when the unit kind of began. So I basically just had to get a little A4 sketchbook, coloring in pencils, which was heartbreaking because I hate coloring in. Um,
You know what?
and I
As a painter as well, my heart like hurts just like listening to this. Like going from
horrible.
the beauty of like traditional painting to like coloring pencils, and then like trying to maybe delve into a bit of, is this kind of like digital as well that you're kind of mixing it up with as well, right?
Yeah, so I basically had to start again, everything entirely. But what I must say about if it was, a normal year, they urge you to continue with your practice and make it, you know, find a way to tie it into the theme of the unit.
Yeah.
So the collaborative unit, so it's called Unit X, Unit X, which is at the end, it's the last unit that you do, and the entire art school actually does it. You don't collaborate though with, fashion students or anything like that. You collaborate with your tutor group normally. Um, and what's pretty good, if it was a normal year, the first years we get a public exhibition somewhere in Manchester. And of course, anybody can come to that, so it's a nice bit of exposure.
Mm.
Um, pretty a lot of people don't get that aware of, so it's nice that
That's
they
that's
do
a
give
that's
us
a
that
that's a public
opportunity.
exhibition at the end of first year.
Yeah,
Oh wow, that is.
silly. So, which is nice, but of course we didn't get it because
Uh,
of COVID, so it was
I'm
online.
saying, oh yeah, that's nice, as if like everything's normal, and then it's like, oh wait, everything isn't normal. Um,
Yeah.
that's a shame, but you know what?
So
Hopefully, I think I think there's a lot people can learn from obviously this situation, and I think one thing is maybe the energy in the studios and the appreciation for normal kind of, I guess, day to day activities will increase so much when obviously all of this is over. So you could say at least this didn't happen in your third year, and it's not your degree show, right? So
I know. Um,
always
not
look at always look at the bright
really
side.
or I know. So that's pretty much the kind of, that's why my work had changed.
Yeah.
Just, I basically had to, adapt, and I needed something for, assessment. So I was, started fresh, new research, and I, took a few photography images, and how I incorporated it into the theme was in the description of the rug. Basically,
Yeah.
it was flat, black and white, and woven. So I just used those words as prompt words to basically start the project. So I took, bird's eye view images of wine
Yeah.
glasses and edited them to make them quite flat,
Mm.
and then, elements of the wine glass, and had kind of, colored them in and stuff, and then
I can
I kind of,
I can see this is the wine glass one you're talking about, right?
yeah. So that was the start of the project,
Mm.
basically. Um, and then I kind of, so the pieces on opposite these, I don't know if you can see these ones,
I can.
those ones, yeah. So I kind of cheated a little on those.
I won't tell your
So
university.
well, it's a part of the process. It wasn't cheated. It was, so what I did was so that is the same thing, but duplicated 8 times and mirrored. So I
Yeah.
only actually had to color in a section about this size,
And then just duplicate it.
and then I edited it, to keep it uniform. That was my excuse, to keep it uniform, and that's basically what made those patterns. And then it changed the color. I basically made it a negative,
Yeah.
so it changed the palette entirely. So that's a little tip if you want to
Tips
make
and
it
tips and
real
tricks on
quick.
how to pass your first year in university. You know what though?
Adapt.
I recall just like when I ghosted for the second half of my first year, like assessment came up and I was just like, oh, it's just pass fail, and I was like, I was exploring like YouTube at that time and like making content for something else, not this channel, but cause I was kind of distracted, so I was just like, I'll just pass first year and I can because it doesn't count, I'll just go into second and third. Not a good attitude to have. I would not advertise this kind of attitude. But
Well, I had that
the kind of when you're kind of like couple weeks from assessment, you're like, yeah, I need to kick up the gears and just make some work. And I remember using different means to kind of just create random bits of work, just so you start to pile up your so-called studies or experimental work. But um, yeah, I think when you're sincere about it, whether you use tricks or not, it's the sincerity makes the work much better than if you're just kind of like, I'll just do this to pass. So,
Well, initially, for that last unit, what they basically told us, because of COVID and things, and it's a collaborative unit, they were like, you just need to pass. They were like, we're not
yeah,
expecting a lot from students, everybody's situation was, so different. Um, so because of COVID, it was just to pass. Um, some people, got to kind of, keep their practice going, if they live near the art school. Of course, I, you know, live in
yeah.
Ireland, so it's easier for me to,
Just go
continue.
for a swim, bro.
Just bring everything over across the water.
So as we start to conclude, is there anything else you would like to add about your own practice, the university? Anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah.
While you've got
Um,
the attention of my first podcast.
yeah, so I'll talk a bit more, about the actual school to make it a bit more informative. So, there's three main art buildings.
Yeah.
The fine art students are typically in the Grosvenor building, which is the original art school. But also in the Grosvenor building, there's a public gallery, just downstairs below the studios, and that, hosts many exhibitions with, artists through the entire year. There's talks with those artists as well, which, is pretty nice. And then, so that building's pretty small. And then it's
So the visiting artists are actually displaying their work within the university most of the time when they're coming.
No, so the visiting artists are extra. So there's other artists who exhibit work in this building as well.
So there really
And
is
then
then something for you to expose yourself to throughout the year, basically, even within your own campus.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the kind of, the smaller building where if you do fine art, you'll typically be there.
Yeah.
And then it's connected to a building called Chatham by a bridge, and it's called the Link Gallery, and this is also where students can kind of exhibit some work if they want. And then the Chatham building's pretty much where the workshop spaces are, and some lecture theatres and things like that. And then the new art building, Benzie, pretty much where fashion students are, but then you would have a few lectures and things in there as well.
Sounds like you've got a lot of space, basically.
This is in 10 minutes away from the city centre as well, so it's pretty close. It's on one of the main roads of Manchester. It's on Oxford Road and Oxford Street. And also the art school is just adjacent the library, and the library's open 24 hours as well. And it has a wing basically dedicated to art. And then also on the top floor it has a special collections as well, which you can book in to see, which is pretty nice. I'm trying to think what else. So that's pretty much the art school, like a building. And then there is local galleries. So there is the Manchester Art Gallery, which is about 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
And then there is the Whitworth Gallery, which is about 10 minutes in the other direction, and they also hold artist talks pretty much every week throughout the year as well, which are free to attend. The student accommodation is pretty much all around the art school, so that's pretty handy, and it's not too far away.
Sounds like everything is very easily accessible, and because I know that, for example, obviously me being in London, I'm kind of spoilt for choice when it comes to galleries and exposure to art, there's actually too much. There's so much you can never get
Yeah.
to it all. But it sounds like obviously even if you head up north, there's still kind of exposure, particularly from your university, to different sources when it comes to inspiration for your art. And there, I mean,
Yeah.
there is always the quick train trip down to London as well. If obviously you and your friends do want to do that gallery kind of rotation over the weekend or something. I know that. Oh well, I guess travel right now. I'm speaking in a normal sense, but no one wants to go.
Yeah. Can, yeah. So that's the two kind of, the main galleries. But I've made a couple of notes, and actually I know you've made a video
Mm.
on, the art foundation.
Yeah.
The art school was, it has a foundation that you can do. I didn't do a foundation. I came, straight from A level.
Yeah.
But this year, when I did first year, they had the tutors made these workshops for people who didn't do a foundation. So they taught you about, research file, your notebooks and your sketchbooks, and how to make work and start ideas.
So giving
And they
you
kept
more of a
close
structure for you to work independently, basically, kind of what the foundation is supposed to set you up for.
Yeah, absolutely. They give you, workshops, which is pretty helpful. And there's pretty much for the entire year, there's workshops all the time for different things. So, stretcher making, print making, and even like, things to do with glass and wood turning and oil paint inductions if you don't know how to use oil paint and things like that.
I'm getting some good vibes from your your university experience so far, and you've just only finished first year as well. So I'm sure even second and third year is going to be better for you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, so there is a lot if although there's no formal teaching off the tutors,
no.
there's usually a workshop that can be set up, and you can just sign up. There's a notice board, and you basically just sign your name up, and they're pretty often, and there's ones for photography, even though we're fine art, but they would show you things, how to use the dark room, and things like that. If you want to develop images in different ways and things like that, how to professionally document their work. They're quite big into that. How do take photographs of your work properly in good lighting?
Yeah.
To publicize yourself a little bit, which is really nice as well. I don't know. There was this quick. One of the units you have to do is CP, and I've already talked about this. But
The contextual practice, right? That's what you mentioned.
yeah,
That was on the Monday, wasn't it?
yeah. So in first year, it's very general, and the entire art school, I believe, has to do some element of CP. But so basically, in first year, your lectures would be on, modernism, postmodernism, feminism, gender, things like that.
So kind of like
But in second year,
gender politics, a little bit stuff to do with that.
so it's pretty wide. And at the end of the year, so you basically have only lectures and seminars for this unit the entire year, and then you have to hand in about a 2,000 word essay at the end of the year, which is very doable.
Yeah.
But I would say top of it,
Just make sure you
I
have
had
you have your notes, and you're paying attention, and it's very straightforward.
yeah,
As long as you show up, basically, and pay attention. That's it at the end of the day, isn't it?
yeah. But then in second year, you get to choose what you they give you a load of options for CP, and you choose what you want to study. But the main thing that might be different from other art schools is because we're a part of the university, you can opt to take. So initially, CP is worth 30 credits, and you would hand your essay in at the end of the year, but you can opt to take a language at the start of the year. So it breaks CP into 15 credits, and then you get 15 credits for the language to kind of make up your credits for the end of the year. But so that means your essay will be shorter, and you will have to do a language examination towards the end of the year. So when they have Mandarin, French, and Spanish, and German, and I think they have classical Latin as well.
Advice to students: Mandarin is not the easiest language to pick up.
It's a growing language. It's a very growing language though, so
Yeah.
a good one to learn. But yeah, so that's, I thought that would have been important to kind of point out, because I know not all schools offer that.
All right, so I guess
So
before we say goodbye, I just wanted to say thank you for appearing in my first podcast. I'm hoping that
yeah,
this will be kind of like a catalyst for more students and conversations, and this will become a thing that I can continue to do. I'm hoping that obviously my setup, and I'm hoping maybe I'll even get hold of you at the end of your second year or the end of your third year, so
yeah,
we can see your progression.
yeah.
I'll be like, yeah,
So
this was the guy who came to me on my first podcast, and now
I
here you are again. Once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Ryan, and hope to see you at the end of your second year and your third year. So
yeah. If you need anyway, like other students, by the way, or if you need me again, you can just message, and I'm sure plenty of other people will be happy to do things like this if you need other people.
fantastic. I'll keep in touch while my email is still manageable, um, as we have a kind of small community on YouTube here. But really appreciate the help, um, and I hope this does benefit in the long run, and hopefully the next time I get you on the episode, we're going to be in the thousands on YouTube, so that you can get some more attention to your second year artwork or your third year artwork.
Lots of people, yeah.
But yeah, I think you've given us some really valuable insight into what first year is like in Manchester Metropolitan University, right, which is Manchester School of Art. I just want to kind of get the
Yeah.
title and the tags right.
Because the art school has its own uh, website, but when you're signing up UCAS, it's Manchester Metropolitan University. You have
Yeah.
to, click on. That's another thing that should be pointed out. So I was a bit worried about that. So they are the same thing. So if you're doing fine art, they're the same thing.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that student who commented on the video wanting to know about Metropolitan or Manchester is going to be happy now. So
Yeah. It is the
yeah.
same. So
All right. Well, thank you, and
yeah.
it's been nice talking. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
bump into you in Ireland one day, or not. Maybe in the UK, but.
Yeah. Probably.
appreciate the call, and thank you for your help, and all the best, I guess.
Yeah.
So take care.
See you later. Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed our first episode of my new podcast, and for anyone wanting to get involved, I have a video on my channel with the thumbnail "I want you." I will put the video link in the description, and you can watch that video for all the details in terms of submitting a kind of, you could say, an application to an email account that I have, if you would like to feature in one of these podcasts. So once again, thank you for watching, thank you for your support, and I hope to see you in the next episode.